Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church in Pasadena. Welcome to all members, friends, and guests. My name is Taylor Chazen, and I'm happy to serve as your worship associate today. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith, connected by love, spirit, and service. We acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Gabrielina Tongva peoples, the traditional caretakers of the lands and waters of this campus. We acknowledge our harmful colonial histories and commit to decolonizing our own practices, to learning new ways of being in community with each other and with the land itself. Today's service is led by Reverend Dr. Omega Burkhart. Music is led today by Dr. Zenaida Robles with Wells Lang, plus guest organist Hayden Schlinger and soloist Wendy Hunter. Please take a moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. Families with young children are always welcome in the sanctuary, and there is an additional play area for the very youngest in our narthex back there. For adults and older youth who don't need assistance, there is a quiet crafting table close to the organ right over there. I have 3 announcements today. One, next Monday, beginning at 6 p.m., you are invited to attend the Board of Trustees meeting either on Zoom or in the Truth and Reconciliation Dining Room. For more information about meeting topics and for the Zoom link, please see the information in the newsletter. After the service today, join parents, caregivers, and kids for a pizza party on the playground. Get to know other neighborhood families and have some fun playtime in your costumes. El Moss will be there to hear from you how we can support our families this year. Also after the service today, join Reverend Omega for a new to you conversation in the living room of the house. If you are new to our church, visiting, or considering finalizing your membership, stop by for a short chat. Reverend Omega will be happy to answer your questions, and she promises not to cast any spells or turn you into a frog during the whole meeting. Our order of service this morning is available as a link in the Sunday email and online by scanning the QR code on the back of your hymnal with your phone camera. Again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, an inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
one becomes two, and two becomes three, and out of the third comes another, which is the fourth. So said Maria Herrera, the prophetess, ancient alchemist, scientist, and spiritual seeker. Today we gather in celebration of the turning leaves, turning from green to orange, the slipping of summer into fall and into winter, the returning of long nights, of black cats with white whiskers and yellow moon eyes, of cauldrons and bonfires, of the thinning of the veil between the spirit world and ours. It is Halloween, a raucous, joyful celebration of orange and black, of costumes, of jack-o'-lanterns, and sweet treats to make hearts glad when spooky spirits are about. We gather as a house of stories, writes my colleague, Scott Taylor. We gather as a shelter, shot through with memories that speak, that long for us to listen, without which we easily lose our way. As we learn from those who have gone before, the way in front of us becomes more clear. As we remember what they survived and what they sacrificed for the faceless us who would come after, we find courage far beyond what we could muster on our own. Beneath this seemingly worn-out world, there are wells from which we can drink. Come, let our thirst guide us there. Come, let those sweet ghosts whisper their gifts. Come, let us worship together this morning. I invite you on this foggy morning, how appropriate. I invite you on this foggy morning to center yourself in this space. Find yourself in these seats, supported in our community. Breathing in deeply this damp, moist air, a balm after the dryness. I invite you into a shared moment of silence as we sit together and breathe for just a few moments. May the cool dampness soothe those who need soothing. May it energize those who need energizing, and may it refresh us for the journey ahead. May it be so.
Good morning. I would first like to invite you to join me in welcoming our guest, who is a student at Sequoia School, which inhabits our grounds during the week. We are so delighted to have Hayden Schlinger with us today, playing the organ. Hayden, thank you for being here, and we look forward to hearing your postlude. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing hymn number 1055, How Sweet the Darkness.
Youth to come forward, but we're also, here comes Elle Moss, our Director of Faith Engagement. Oh no, it's not Elle at all. Oh my goodness. It's a small fuzzy bear from a galaxy far, far away.
Not a bear.
I was wrong.
I'm a Wookiee. I'm Chewbacca. We would like to invite all of the children to come up, if you would like to come up. So you might notice that behind me are several pumpkins. Yeah, there's some amazing pumpkins, and these pumpkins were carved by the staff here. So, yeah, there's some really cool ones. And you'll notice that there are also letters in front of the pumpkins. I'm blocking them, they can't see. So these amazing pumpkins, there's a contest. There's a contest that's happening, and everyone gets to vote on the pumpkins. But, and I'll tell you how to do that in just a minute. But the thing that I wanted to talk about is, do you know what the origin of pumpkin carving is? No? Did you know that we haven't? You want to make a guess? Okay.
dress up in costumes to scare spirits away. So I think they will make Deadpool scare spirits away.
You're exactly right. I don't know how many people heard that, but he was saying that we dress up to scare spirits away on All Hallows Eve. But we didn't always carve pumpkins. We actually used to carve gourds and turnips, indeed. And this started not here because it started a long time ago. So we are happy to be participating in this tradition, and maybe you've carved pumpkins at home? What? Did you carve pumpkins? Amazing. So, what I'm gonna do is, let's see. I'm gonna pass these out and help pass them out. These are little slips. These are slips, and they'll also be available in the back for all of the adults to participate as well. There's a box kind of behind this middle section. We all need. Okay, well, let's pass out those pencils. Does everybody have one? Did you get one? Okay, you have too many? Yeah. Okay. Does everybody have one? So you can circle. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, keep them in your hand, and we're going to stick them in the box as we go out. Everybody's thinking very hard about this.
They're all thinking about their pumpkins, their vote for jack-o'-lanterns. Is everybody thinking about their vote? And grown-ups, you get to vote also. The little slips of paper are in the back. You can do that either during the service while you are putting your pledge in the box. How convenient. Don't mix the two up, though. You can't vote with your $20 bill. Well, I don't know. Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, actually, I think that's great. Please do. And then during next week's service, we're going to announce the pumpkin winner. So I encourage you to come up after the service and take a look because some of them are really quite intricate. A is a butterfly. B is the symbol of our church. How appropriate. C has purple hair. D ate another pumpkin, which looks like a theme because H over there also is in the process of eating another pumpkin. H required a little cosmetic surgery before the service. E is a beautifully painted mushroom. F looks like a cat, which also is similar to G, which I unfortunately left the tape right next to, so I'll move that in just a moment. Beautiful, thank you, L. Beautiful carved animals. So after the service, grown-ups, take a walk by, or on your way to, how convenient, this pledge box. Take a look. Now, have all the kiddos had a chance to write on the little slip of paper? Okay, because we're going to get ready to do a parade for Halloween, and we're going to listen to some music. So all the kiddos who want to participate in the parade, and grown-ups, if you're in costume, I invite you to stand up and join us, and we're going to go around the sanctuary 2 times. 2 times. Ready? Is everybody ready? Okay, stand up if you're going to go in the parade. Grown-ups, stand up if you're going to go in the parade.
fun. All right. Each Sunday, our congregation dedicates 100% of its contributions to a 501c3 organization or neighborhood church-based social justice activities that are making a difference in our community and around the world. You can donate in one of two ways. You can use your cell phone to donate by texting the number on the screen. Or if you prefer to donate in person, put your donation in one of the designated boxes during the music or after the service. There is a donation box here in the front, behind the back center row, and in the narthex entryway on the table. You may rise during the music to put your donation in the box if you want. Please extend help to those in your neighborhood who may need assistance reaching the donation boxes. If you wish to make a payment toward your pledge or contribute to church operations, make a note in the subject line or use an envelope available at the donation boxes. This week, our gifts will support the Trevor Project. Right now, somewhere in America, a young person is staring at their phone, desperately searching for someone who understands. They're 13, maybe 14, and they've just heard another debate about whether they deserve to exist as they are. They've seen their rights discussed like political talking points rather than their lived reality. And in this moment of darkness, they need to know one thing, that their life has value. This young person is not alone. According to the Trevor Project's 2024 national survey of over 18,000 LGBTQ+ youth, 39% seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year. For transgender and non-binary youth, that number rises to a staggering 46%. These aren't just statistics. They're our children, our neighbors, the future leaders of our community. And the crisis is getting worse. The Trevor Project's groundbreaking longitudinal study, the first of its kind, followed 1,600 LGBTQ youth over the past year. What they found should alarm every one of us. Anxiety symptoms rose from 57% to 68%. Depression increased from 48% to 54%. Suicidal ideation climbed from 41 to 47%. This happened during a year when over 500 anti-LGBTQ+ bills were introduced across the country, when young people watched their identities become political battlegrounds. The Trevor Project reported a record-breaking 700% increase observed across the Trevor Project's crisis lines on November 6, 2024, the day after the elections. Here's what's crucial to understand, though. LGBTQ+ youth are not inherently at higher risk. As the research shows, it's the mistreatment, the stigma, the denial of support that drives this crisis. When a young person sees their identity debated in state houses, when they're told they don't belong in sports or public spaces, when their access to health care is threatened, that's what puts their life at risk. And this is where the Trevor Project exists. This is why they need our support now more than ever. Every single day, Trevor Project crisis counselors answer over 600 calls, texts, and chats from LGBTQ+ youth in crisis. That's 600 young people who chose to reach out instead of giving up. And behind each contact is a trained counselor who says the words that can save a life. I'm here, I'm listening, you matter. Here's what gives us hope. Suicide is preventable. The research shows that when a youth reaches out for mental health support during a crisis, it makes a difference. In fact, the number of youth seeking the support has doubled from 32% to 64%. One accepting adult can reduce the risk of suicide by 40%. One conversation can change everything. The Trevor Project's 24/7 crisis services are just the beginning. They're training educators, parents, and allies to create supportive environments. They're conducting this vital research to show better understanding and prevent LGBTQ+ youth suicide. They're building digital communities where young people can connect safely with peers who understand their journey. But beyond the numbers, your donation sends a powerful message to LGBTQ+ youth that adults are fighting for them, that they're not alone, and that their future is worth investing in. As Trevor Project CEO James Black says, the manner in which LGBTQ+ youth are treated in this country harms their health and risks their lives, and it is only getting worse. But together we can change this trajectory. In times when young people are told they're wrong for being who they are, the Trevor Project says you are perfect as you are. When the world feels hostile, they provide sanctuary. When hope feels distant, they help young people find it again. Today I'm asking you to support this life-saving work, because somewhere right now, a young person is reaching for their phone, searching for hope. Let's make sure someone answers. Thank you so much.
Those of us of a certain age may have worked really hard to memorize some of those dance steps. I was imagining that in my mind. Today's reading is a poem entitled, appropriately, The Witch's Brew. This is by Edwin John Pratt. Perched on a dead volcanic pile, now charted as a submerged peak near to a moon-washed coral isle, 100 leagues from Mozambique, 3 water witches of the east, under the stimulus of rum, decided that the hour had come to hold a Saturnalian feast, in course of which they had hoped to find for their black art, once and for all, the true effect of alcohol upon the cold aquatic mind. From 2 Phoenicians who were drowned, the witches 3, whose surnames were Lulu, Ardath, and Marion, had by an incantation found a cavern near the coast of Crete, and saw, when they had entered in, a blacksmith with a dorsal fin, whose double pectorals and webbed feet proved, while his dusky shoulders swung, his breed to be of land and water. Last of great Neptune's stock that sprung from Vulcan's form, union with his daughter, the sisters' terms accepted he, together with his family, left his native Cretan shore to dig the witches' copper ore out of their subaqueous mines in the distant Carolines, in forge a cauldron that might stand stationary and watertight, 1,000 cubits in its height, its width 1,000 breadths as spanned by the smith's gigantic hand, so that each fish, however dry, might have, before the feast was through, his own demonstrable supply of this pan-oceanic view. 1,000 leagues or so away down the Pacific to Cape Horn, and southwards from Magellan lay a table, land to which was borne the cauldron from the Carolines. For here, as well the sisters knew, the Spanish conquerors of Peru had stored their rich and ancient wines. About the time the English burst upon their galleons under Drake, who sank or captured them to shake a vast Elizabethan thirst with pick and bar on that Cretan coast. His way to the interior of every sunken ship who hold had wines almost 4 centuries old upon the broad Magellan floors. Great passageway from west to east were also found more recent stores, the products of younger yeast. For 20 years or thereabouts, the bacchanals of Western nations, scenting universal drought, had searched the ocean to find out the most secluded ports and stations where unmolested they might go to serve their God, while here below, with their strength of all their libations. So the distant isles there sailed in honor of the ivy, gold, and God, scores of log-loaded ships that hailed from Christiana to Cape Cod, with manifests entitled ham and corned beef, molasses, chamois, milk, cotton, Irish linen, silk, pickles, dynamite, and jam, and myriad substances whose form dissolved quite into other freights beneath the magic of a storm that scattered them around the straits. For this is what the blacksmith read while raking up that ocean bed: Budweiser, Guinness, Schlitz in kegs, Square-Faced Gin and Gordon's Dry, O'Brien's, Burke's and Johnny Beggs, Munich, Bach, and Seagram's Rye, Dewar's, Hennessy 3-Star, Glenlivet, White Horse and Old Parr with Haig and Canadian Club, Jamaican rum, and other brands known to imbibers in all the lands that stock from brewery or pub. All these Cretan, and with the aid of industrious progeny, they drew to that cauldron, and there laid, by the order the witches 3, the real foundation for the spree. And thus ends our reading.
I love the variety of music and poetry we're getting today as we look toward Halloween. And this next poem song takes us to a churchyard in Greece. The original poem was a Greek folk song translated to French and set by Ravel, and I'm going to read it for you in English and then sing it in French. So over there toward the church Io Sidero. O Holy Virgin, the church Io Costandino. The people are reunited, assembled in infinite numbers. O Holy Virgin, They are the most brave people.
The bonfires of Samhain, Festival of Fire and Transformation, those bonfires burn bright orange. The crone at her cauldron, copper tinged with black from the flame and the soot of the fire, beckons you to a new year and ushers in a season of longer nights, a time of healing, a time of tending to tasks indoors, a time for taking shelter from the world for just a brief moment, a time of honoring our ancestors and reflection on the past year in preparation for the turning that we know will happen when the wheel eventually rolls towards spring. Orange and black, the colors of our secular Halloween celebration, of course, are everywhere as well. From the pumpkins that we now carve into silly-faced jack-o'-lanterns, or the black cats with moon eyes that we imagine scurrying through the dark. These colors are so symbolic this time of year that in this hemisphere especially, that it's hard to see them together at any other time and not think of trick-or-treating. Many of you know I was out of town a few weeks ago. I was actually in Costa Rica, and as I arrived and stayed at my first hotel, they had everything decorated for American Halloween, and there was nothing more incongruous than the foliage of the jungle of Costa Rica with orange and green and black. There is a special kind of alchemy that happens when we take this orange, this color of fire, the color of pumpkin, for example, when we imagine its transformational power that will scare away the evil spirits that creep in the dark. Alchemy is the great hope of tinkerers, scientists, pursuers of medical knowledge, philosophers, and mystics. It is an ancient practice or set of practices, amongst other things, that seeks to turn lesser substances into more elevated ones. At its core, practitioners of alchemy have, throughout history, sought to combine the mystical and spiritual with the material, imbuing objects with meaning and seeking to convert that object and meaning into something else. Perhaps the most famous pursuit of alchemical practice that we as non-alchemists, perhaps some of you are, so I'll speak for myself as I, a non-alchemist, may have heard of, is converting copper or other lesser metals into gold. While the centuries have proven that this transformation is not actually possible, many branches of alchemical study have led to other discoveries that we take for granted today. For example, many pieces of laboratory equipment were created by wild and adventurous thinkers in pursuit of that changing base metal to gold. The double boiler, for example, a pot to gently warm liquid over the boiling pot below, was created around the year 200 of the Common Era by Maria Hebrea, Maria the prophetess. It was called after her the Bain Marie, or the Maria's bath. It is still in use today in laboratories and in home kitchens, perhaps. Also credited to Maria Hebrea were the Keratakis and the Tribikos. These are two pieces of instrumentation that have been modified and are continued to be used in laboratories today. They rely on heating of various vessels that are made of copper and other materials to trap vapors or to create distillation. She is credited with the axiom that I read earlier, out of the one comes two, and from the two comes three, and from the third comes one as the fourth. This was later used by Carl Jung and Jungian philosophers to describe individuation. In other words, how one thing is not something else, even though it can give rise to it. In alchemy, the copper is not gold, just as I am not you. However, the process itself has a little bit of magic because the interrelatedness of relationship is what is more important. The spirit, if you will, that resides in two distinct items and how they don't overlap, but how they are in process and change one another. The ancient Hermetic arts of intuition and spirituality that aided Maria Hebrea, amongst others, to figure out that copper was a perfect material for their laboratory tools, definitely aided others later in the medieval period and beyond to use it in other alchemical pursuits, that namely of brewing beer. That is, the alchemy of transmuting, shall we say, transformation of barley and grains and water, certain seasonings perhaps, like hops, and a mysterious fourth agent that we now know as yeast, but they didn't then, transmuting that into a beverage that changed the world. Beer has been used as payment for labor, as food, as a source for calories. It is, after all, liquid bread. It's a form of hydration, and yes, also occasionally for a good time, for as long as it has existed. An alchemy from humble grain to something satisfying and nourishing for humans. 1,000 years after Maria the prophetess, Maria Hebrea, discovered this use of copper and used it in her lab and kitchens, European brewers of beer recognized that copper worked best for their large mash tuns. These are the large vessels in which wort is made. That's W-O-R-T, which is the German word for sweetened water or sweet water. Mash is the concoction of grains and temperature-controlled water, where the heat and the water begin an enzymatic process that will break down those sugars and later be able to be fermented. Mash tuns are those large copper kettles seen in traditional breweries, although many have been replaced by stainless steel at this point if you visit a brewery. Writes Chris Holloland in the Oxford Companion of Beer that copper, a metal long valuable in the construction of breweries, while it has been largely replaced by stainless steel, it is absolutely fundamental to the brewing process because copper is malleable and can be formed into sheets, which allowed the engineering of large vessels. The sheets were easily joined to produce leak-proof seals. He goes on to write that copper is also an excellent conductor of heat, which made it the metal of choice in the days when direct firing of kettles was very common. In Britain, in particular, brewing kettles are still sometimes referred to as the coppers. Copper is also, in trace amounts, a nutrient that is needed by yeast for beer. Wort is mildly acidic, and it dissolves the small amounts of copper necessary for good yeast health in the brewing process. In beer fermentation, copper acts to reduce concentrations of hydrogen sulfide, a gas with the aroma reminiscent of rotten eggs. Nobody likes their beer to smell like rotten eggs. Now, women, especially the medieval alewives of Europe, were often in danger of being considered evil if they were brewers. After the mid-1500s, since convents and monasteries were the centers of brewing and controlled by the church at the time, anyone brewing outside of those systems was a little suspect. Copper, as in copper of the kitchen pot, and copper of the cauldron, is, after all, associated with Venus in alchemy. It represents the feminine, it represents beauty and transformation, and is connected with healing and youthfulness, sometimes also with bridging life and death. Copper stimulates growth and is found naturally in our blood, more so in women's blood than in men, as it is linked to estrogen. Because of its great conductive power, moving energy, transferring energy. In spiritual realms, copper is associated in some practices with burials and embalming. For many, a pagan believer, also copper, wrapped lightly or tightly around a crystal and worn as jewelry, is thought to transfer the energy from that crystal to the human body, and the warmth of the human body and energy back to the crystal. So the archetype of the witch's brew, that mash of water and spices mixed in a blackened copper kettle, perhaps it's beer, but it could also be tea or soup. It draws on all of these facts, the scientific, the mythological, the alchemical, and beyond. The figure of a woman well past childbearing age, a crone, and I use that term with self-love, a crone who possesses the knowledge of brewing, possesses the equipment and the understanding of metallurgy, a person who could potentially bridge healing and the spirit realm. Now that is a powerful image, one that some of us embrace as I look around and see my other members of a coven here with us today. But I think more importantly than just that image is the lesson that copper teaches us about alchemy as a metaphor. Ancient Maria, the prophetess, knew this to be true, and we learn it again every day. Out of one comes two, and from two comes three, and from the third comes one as the fourth. Copper is not gold, nor does it have to be gold to be important in science or mythology. In brewing or in transfer energy, it is important. The importance of copper is how it is a conduit of energy between two objects. It is how it creates relationship, just as it is valued for its beauty on its own. So this Samhain, or this All Hallows Eve, this season of transition, be like copper. Be a conduit of energy through which great things happen. Be valued not for what you could be transformed into, but who you are, your own beauty, your own shine. Like copper, be of good use. Be malleable and flexible, but strong. Be nutritive. Be not like gold, rather let a blue-green patina of wisdom shine through you. But also be like the witch. Be prophetic. Know history. Trust your intuition and use it to change your present and your future. Know the connection between the natural world and our own, and know that we are not separate from it. Know that we are living amongst spirits here in the material. Keep some shiny objects. Brew amazing potions in your kitchen and share them with your loved ones. Pet a black cat with white whiskers. And be an alchemist. Trust that sometimes there is more to be learned of value in the process, in the adventure, and those wild ideas. There's more of value in that sometimes than the outcome, than the final destination. Invent something and fail at it, but know that your invention might someday spark something else. Bend some metal. Engage in a philosophical discussion of what you could do if you could change copper to gold. Why not? And seek new ways of changing the world. Make change like an alchemist. This world right now needs useful, flexible, and beautiful things. This world right now needs caretakers and brewers and intuitive people and lovers of nature. This world right now needs adventurers. It needs visionary thinkers and creatives with endurance and a connection to the spirit that binds us all together and flows through us. So gather your copper pots and your cooking vessels, your cauldrons, and your black cats. Meet me at the bonfire. Let's make some transformation in this world. May it be so.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 275, Joyful is the Dark. Oh, we will sing only verses 1, 2, and 5.
Joyful is the dark,
For our words of benediction this morning, I offer you this by Jennifer Pratt Walter. If I can do nothing more, I go out the back door and I sit on the steps where the tuxedo cat rubs my leg. And I look for the holy. If you call it life or God or mystery, it's okay. It's all in the thesaurus of sacred things. When trapped in the grimace of chaos and pain, I can kneel here in the grass at night amongst the sinuous dance, the dance of moths or night-winged bats, especially when the moon is full of holiness, or maybe I smell the first rain after a drought, bedding down in the cricketing field, and then I know. Meet me there where we can do nothing much together but think and breathe holiness and pet the white-whiskered